On our Discord, we have the ability to do live chat, and I was on the chat yesterday with David down in Margaritaville, and he asked me a question. He said, what is the highest return stock that you have on your cheat sheet over the next 2.5 years? And I said, well, David, it's a coincidence, but I just did a video on that today, and it'll be coming out tomorrow. And he said, well, which one is it? And I said, well, it's Micron Technology. I think between my cost basis and what the price is now and what it'll be in the January the 1st of 2027, I'm going to make 363% on it. And he said, wow. He said, I don't even hold that. I don't have a position in that. And I said, well, let me show you why. And I took him to my Seeking Alpha and brought up the screen on Microsoft earnings forecasts and its revenues forecast and showed him. And he said, wow, I'd never seen that. I belong to Seeking Alpha, but I've never seen that particular page. I didn't know you could do that. And so I got to thinking, Micron, and I understand why Micron is going to grow at that rate. It's all about, Jensen has the GPUs, but GPUs don't know what they just did. They have to have a memory attached to them so that if they got to refer back and say, what did we just do 3 seconds ago? The memory says, here it is. And that's the biggest player in that. One of the biggest players is Micron. Samsung's big in it, and several others. So I said, well, do I know any other companies that are in the memory business who could benefit from this change in the market that is being brought about by artificial intelligence and machine learning and NVIDIA's GPU chips? And I said, yeah, I own another one. It's called Netlist. Well, I did a blog on it. I went and did some research and said, okay, what is their situation? And in particular, in light of the lawsuits that they got going on against Samsung, Micron, and Google. And I did that blog, and I posted it just yesterday. And it basically says that Micron had a good first quarter. They increased their earnings by 297% first quarter of 2024 as opposed to first quarter of 2023. And I thought, that sounds like Micron. And so I dug a little bit deeper, and basically they went on to say that revenue growth is coming. They have cash reserves of about $41 million. They're having operating losses, and that is, they said, as a result of very high legal fees associated with their suits and their research and development into this memory, and indicated that it was paying off. And then I went into the blog about their position as AI is coming and high density computing, and so it was looking pretty bright. And then we got into the legal issues, and their summation was basically that they have won cases against Samsung, and they have won cases against Micron, and that the cases in Google are coming forward, and that they believe, based on the judgments that they got in the past, that Micron is in a good position to win those cases. So I posted that on the blog, and it's up, and you can go and read it in detail. And then I went and I said, well, let me get some word from the mouth. And so I went to Seeking Alpha again, and I found the transcript from their latest earnings call for first quarter of 2024, which was participated in by Charles Hong and Gail Saaki. I know I'm not pronouncing that right. And I said, okay, now I'm going to read this and then summarize it and write a follow-up blog to my first blog that I put up the day before. And I came away with a very different attitude. What I learned from from Charles and from Gail is that all the lawsuits that they had won in the past, over the past 10 years against Samsung and Micron, that that there is a board that is coming in and reversing the opinion of the prior 4 decisions that they had and saying, no, 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 no. Everybody got that wrong. All the courts got wrong. And this is a judicial board. It's a government position that is basically, as I understand it, as Charles explained it to me, is that they're coming in and saying, no, those juries were wrong. Those judges were wrong. Those judgments that you have against Samsung and Micron are not going to stand up, and we're going to wipe them out. Well, what Charles now has to do is appeal that decision, which means more money being spent, which also means the Google case just keeps pushing back further and further. And I literally felt sorry for Charles because, I mean, he's getting screwed. For some reason, these political people are reversing the decisions of the judicial system and saying, no, we're going back on that. So that gave me a bit of a setback. But nonetheless, I come back to the comparison to what I see happening in Micron, one of the people that Charles is suing, and their growth potential, and the biggest growth potential, far in excess of what I believe NVIDIA will return me over the next 2.5 years, Micron, and then I look at what happened in the quarter 2024, first quarter, that their earnings were up 270%. And no, their revenues were up 270%, and they're projecting their earnings to be smaller losses. So what I want to do is take you where I go to dig deeper, and that's at Seeking Alpha's comparison of their financial statement and comparison. When I say comparison, compare Micron's to Netlist's financial statement and Micron to Netlist's earnings projection and revenue projection for the coming year, and see what you think. Should we say, okay, let's just give up on these legal suits, old Netlist, Micron, hoping that the lottery ticket would pay off? Maybe they will be a major player in this overwhelming need that advanced computing is going to need for memory chips. Maybe in this whole mix, there is a golden egg for Netlist. Let me take you to computer. Let me take you to Seeking Alpha, and let me show you where I go to try to sort this out. Okay, this is Seeking Alpha, and this is Micron. What I'm going to do is go to financials, and it picks up all the financials of the past back to 2014. What I want you to focus on is the movement from about 2020. They were at, it looks like, about 21.4 billion. They went up to 27.7. They went to 30, and then their business dropped in half. This is their revenues, dropped to 15 billion, and now it's coming back, and year over year through the first half of this year, they're up to 21. So their business is coming back, and as you can see, their profits are coming back as well. You can see again in 2023, as a result of their revenues dropping in half, their profits went negative as well. Now let's look at the same thing and look at Netlist. Okay, here we have Netlist, and let's go back 2022. Now these are in millions as opposed to billions, and we were at 47. Good growth up to 142, up to 161, and then again, look, it dropped more than half, just like Micron did, and now it's coming back. All right, so we have a similarity here of two companies who are adversaries, but the same thing has happened. So does that give us hope? Well, let's then go back to our Micron, and now let's look at earnings projections. And we'll go here, we'll see earnings estimates. Now here we have Micron, and we can see that they had in 2022. They had earnings of $8.35, which dropped to a negative $4.45. And now we go into projections. So the 445 negative is going to turn into a positive of 118. They can't do a calculation from a negative to a positive. So that's, but we can see it's a substantial growth. And then in 2025, they're projecting it's going to go up to $9.49. That's a 703% gain, followed by a 34% gain, and then in 27 they're saying it's backing off. Corresponding numbers in the revenues, up 61, up 51, up 15, down 5. So that's Micron. Now let's see what we can learn from it by comparing it to Netlist. Again, Netlist is only showing negatives, but it was a negative 14 in 2022. In 2023, this is the downturn to a negative 25, and now they're projecting in 2024 a negative 17, which is a increase or a lesser loss by 32%, and then a loss of 8, which is a lesser loss by 54%. If we also then look at the revenue projections, we have a 131 projected increase and a 31 in 25 projected increase. Again, let's go back and look at Micron and see what if Netlist just keeps up in some similarity to Micron because of the growth of the memory business, which is being driven by the growth of the GPU and CPU business. Do we have hope for Netlist? And what can that hope amount to? Well, let's again just say that if their earnings improve from a negative 25 to a negative 17, that's a 32% increase. Well, its price right now is about $1.50, so that would take it to $2. And then if it gets a 50% or 53%, that would take it to $4 if the price of the stock mirrored its earnings. If the price of the stock mirrored its revenues, we're at $1.50. We go up 130. We're now at about $3.50, and then we go up another third. Now we're at about $5 at the end of 2025. Is that good? Well, it would be for me. It's not what I hoped for. But if in addition to that, we got some favorable decisions relative to the lawsuits, which I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we can come out of this after all, okay? Will we get a 300% return? Well, from $1.50 to $4.50 would be a 300. To $6, what would that be? Yeah. Okay, that's my take on Netlist. I get a lot of questions. Are you going to sell it? To me, it's a lottery ticket. Up until today, it's now potentially a good investment. If, in fact, these patents are what Charles tells me they are and what the courts believed they were, it's still a major potential winner. Take out the lawsuit, and it might at least get me back to even and some gain. I own it at about $3.20 a share. If it could go to $6, I'd be elated. I hope you would be too. That's my take on this. This is how I analyze stocks. I believe that the price of a stock, the value of a company, is very simple. It's the earnings per share multiplied times its PE ratio. If this kind of analysis appeals to you, start by going to bestofusinvestors.com, find the news articles, and read my 2 blogs on Netlist and see if it makes sense. Then if the analysis that I just showed you on Seeking Alpha makes sense to you, you might want to subscribe to Seeking Alpha. There's a link to it in the description. And if you don't have the time to do this sort of thing and you want to have access to this, well, then can go back to Best of Us Investors and find the Platinum program and sign up. Right now, we have a promotion of a 14-day free trial. So you can digest that cheat sheet, and you can see how I specialize on just semiconductor and AI stocks, and use this kind of analysis to help me project what my portfolio is going to be worth on January the 1st of 2027. If this all makes sense, then come join us and be a part of a tribe, be a part of a community that kind of subscribes to the same methodology and discipline for making money in the stock market. I really think with the advent of data that wasn't available to me when I was a financial advisor, and if I can understand it and I can stay on top of it, because again, they're going to have another earnings call, I believe we said in September, and both Micron and Netlist, and the numbers will change. But in the interim, if we can keep up with it by reading articles and reading press releases, we can play this game and win. Okay? I'm Kerry Grinkmeyer. I'm a retired financial advisor. My objective is to help you make better investment decisions, change the situation of your life and your children's life and your grandchildren's life. If I can do that, the time I spent here will be worth it. Talk to you again tomorrow.